A missile strike in central Israel resulted in significant damage and casualties. According to reports, 2 people are trapped in a building hit by the missile, where 14 others were injured. Among the injured is a 60-year-old woman in serious condition who was taken to Wilson Medical Center in Holon near Tel Aviv. This is the latest that we're getting right now. A missile strike in central Israel has resulted in significant damage and casualties. As per reports, 2 people are trapped in a building that was hit by the missile, while 14 others were injured. And among the injured is a 60-year-old woman in a serious condition who was taken to the Wilson Medical Center near Tel Aviv. This is the latest that we're getting at the moment. A missile strike in central Israel, which resulted in significant damage as well as casualties. 2 people are feared trapped in a building hit by the missile. 14 others were injured. For more on this, we're now being joined by John Rossamander live from Washington, D.C. He's the president of Viking Research Associates, geostrategist, strategist and an expert on national security. Thank you so much for joining us on WION World this one.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Mr. Rossamander, I want to begin by asking you what your assessment of the current situation in West Asia is.
Well, I think that we're in for a long haul here. I mean, I think that Israel and Iran have been planning for this war for decades now. I mean, the Israelis came out today and said that the Mossad attacks inside Iran had been planned for over 20 years. You have the attacks against the Natanz enrichment facility, the attacks against the top leadership of the Iranian military. So, I mean, this is going to be going. I mean, we're seeing something now that reminds me a little bit of the War of the Cities between Iraq and Iran in the 1980s, with the Israelis attacking Tehran and the Iranians attacking Tel Aviv.
Right. I want to also understand what your perspective on Israel's preemptive defense is.
Well, the Israelis believe that they only had a few days before the Iranians had the ability to build 15 nuclear weapons. And that was a bridge too far for the Israelis, because they believed that such an event would be the end of their state. I mean, just look at the attacks with these hypersonic missiles against Tel Aviv. Imagine if they had a nuclear warhead on it. You would have a mass casualty event. And the Israelis would retaliate using nuclear weapons. So it was a really dangerous time.
Absolutely dangerous times indeed. That being said, what do you think was Israel's objective here? Was it strategic deterrence? Do you think this is a deliberate recalibration of it? What's your assessment of that?
Absolutely. The Israelis have been planning this for decades to strategic deterrence. They can't afford to let Iran have nuclear weapons. I mean, the Israelis have had nuclear weapons for almost 70 years now, and it's an insurance policy against other countries coming and taking it over. But I think the Israelis believe that it was the time. The United States knew before the attacks that they were going to happen. President Trump spoke with Netanyahu on Monday, made it public saying that he was against it. But in private, he was supportive of the Israelis doing this. So a lot of these talks that we've been hearing have been a good public relations campaign to keep people from paying attention to what really was going on.
All right. So that, of course, brings into question the role of the United States and the extent to which it is involved in this war, now in this conflict. So we've been speaking to experts as well. You are a national security expert yourself. Some are of the view that Donald Trump has fallen into Benjamin Netanyahu's trap. Some say that the United States will defend and will distance itself and will only get involved if its regional bases are under threat. That is the only time it will get directly involved. I want to understand from you what your perspective on the United States' role in this is, and to what extent do you think United States is involved in this?
Well, I think the United States is involved in as much as it will provide logistical support to Israel. And if, in fact, Tehran decides to lash out and attack American bases, which would be a really bad idea, or close off the Strait of Hormuz, then the United States would probably get involved. I think that this is just right now going to be Israel versus Iran, and the United States is going to sit on the sidelines.
All right. So that being said, how do you see the next few days panning out? Do you think there is going to be further regional escalation?
Well, I think that it's going to, continue this sort of, war of the cities that we were seeing, and unconventional warfare with Mossad teams using anti-tank missiles to take out Iranian missile launchers, kind of reminiscent of back in the '91 Gulf War when you had SAS and American Special Forces going around taking out Saddam's Scuds.
All right. Now, some of the experts are also of the view that this should have never happened, and perhaps they should have stayed on the path of diplomacy. We know that Iran and the United States had been engaged in nuclear talks. They had reached an impasse there. There was no breakthrough. Donald Trump has in fact even said that he hopes that Iran will come to the negotiating table and there can be a negotiated solution to this. Do you think that's possible at this point?
Well, the Iranians have never had an interest in any sort of giving up their program. I was in an Arab capital meeting with high-level people in one of the royal courts over there who had talked with the Iranians, and they were saying the Iranians would not give up their nuclear enrichment program, and they had been told so by Iranian diplomats. At that point, with President Trump's red line is zero enrichment, there was no way of reaching an agreement. I mean, President Trump started this back in April, and his 60-day window expired yesterday. So there's no further way for diplomacy because the Iranians really have no interest in diplomacy.
All right, and of course we know that Israel is engaged in a multi-front war. It is engaged in a war in Gaza as well with the Hamas. That being said, how do you assess Israel's capabilities to continue?
Well, Israel is a very robust nation, has a lot of capabilities. I mean, we saw, one of the most brilliant unconventional warfare schemes yesterday. The Israelis built a drone base inside Iran. And Iranian operatives of the Mossad carried out attacks. I think the Israelis, they fought several wars on different fronts and defeated their enemies every time. I think the Israelis outclassed the Iranians when it comes to military. Plus, also, the Iranians have their own problems when it comes to lack of support for their regime. It's very unpopular, and really all the United States should do is give the Iranian opposition the ability to communicate, just like President Reagan did with the Solidarity Movement 40 years ago.
All right, and looking ahead, what do you think could be possible paths for de-escalation?
Well, the only path for de-escalation is the end of the regime in Tehran, because they're not going to stop. I mean, the Iranians will not stop until they've destroyed Israel. Now it's off the races. The gloves are off. And really the only way to end this is if the Iranian people take matters into their own hands.
All right, Mr. Osmondo, thank you so much for joining us on WION World as One with your insights on this.
Thank you.
For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.